it's ready. We're ready with our faith panel. Let me just tell you a couple of our subjects today. Number one, the news that peers will represent different faiths at the King's coronation on the 6th. King stated his desire to remember to be a defender of all faiths. So you've got Muslim, Hindu, Sikh and Jewish peers are going to be presenting the King with 4 pieces of coronation regalia. So I want to talk to our panel about that. Plus, you might remember we did the whole thing about these AI chatbots that can replicate conversations. And an interesting piece in the Religion News where a Jesuit priest writes, got a AI to write something about faith. They can write sermons. So I'm guessing they can write prayers. Should AI get involved in religion? It seems that maybe they already are dipping their toes into that water. But let's start off with the King's coronation. Joining me now for our faith panel, we've got 2 guests. Pastor Jonathan Oyedi, who's a convener of the National Day of Prayer and Worship and leader at the City Chapel in East London. And also Amandeep Singh, who's a Sikh spiritual leader and broadcaster. Welcome, both of you, to our faith panel today. Lovely to have both of you. So let's start off with your thoughts on the King saying he stated his desire to be a defender of all faiths, while also, of course, serving as the head of the Church of England. So you're going to have Muslim, Hindu, Sikh and Jewish peers at the coronation, presenting the King with 4 key pieces of the regalia. Let's start with you, Pastor Jonathan. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I did meet I met the King when he was Prince of Wales, and we had this conversation. And at the time, he said that he was going to be and continue to be the defender of the faith in the United Kingdom. And I think in this day of plurality, that sometimes it's always good for a nation or a group of people to have an identity based on their history, who they are, where they are, while also being all-inclusive. When I met with a number of Muslim leaders years ago, they said they would rather this nation was a Christian nation so that it can have a reference point, rather than it just have this plurality of welcoming any and everyone. Now, every faith is important, people are important, but it's always good for a nation to have a historic context, just like many other nations of the world that would identify to be either Islamic or Christian. And I think it's always good to have that reference point. And I think it's better for him to be the defender of the faith while being inclusive of other faiths.
Yeah. Amandeep, your thoughts on this?
Good afternoon, Trisha. Thanks for having me on the show. It's interesting to hear those comments. King Charles would disagree. He has, for a long time now, made it clear that he would like to be regarded as defender of faith. That's been publicly recorded, and that's been on the agenda for a long time now. Obviously, the grammar being the removal of the word the, meaning it's the single. We are a nation of plurality, and I think it's wonderful that other faiths are being recognised. In respect of who he's chosen to represent those faith leaders, going to lords and peers, I personally think that trying to be a forward-thinking king, as he seems to project himself as wanting to be, who's a person of the people, I would have chosen sort of people that were closer to the actual people that are in that they're being governed by. So, for example, Jay Shetty, for example, he's a wonderful speaker and a social reformer and a philosopher of the current day. You know, he's a really cool guy from the Hindu background. I'd have liked to see someone like him representing the Hindus in that involvement. And for example, like Ravi Singh from Khalsa Aid, amazing work that he does, charity, feeding millions of people across the world. He really is a man of the people. And if this ceremony is a ceremony for the people, seeing people that are of the people represented in that ceremony, as opposed to lords, and there's this disconnect right now with the lords and governance and the people and the democracy that's being governed. So personally, I think it's great that we have faith represented. Personally, I would have chosen people closer to home, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah. Do you think that it's a good idea, though, not to have actual clerics be there, because they're going to be, apparently there will be some of them in the audience. When I say clerics, imams, etc., etc. Jonathan, do you think it's better that they remain in the audience?
Well, I think just like my wonderful colleague has said on here, it's good for people from that community in a way to have a say or have a voice in who represents them, so that there is a connect. And so it's not tokenistic. It actually does represent something, and people feel really connected. So that what the king is trying to achieve, he actually achieves by people that represent, feel the vibe and feel the heart of the people that they represent, and not see it as a token.
Amandeep's nodding. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, sorry, go on, Amandeep.
I mean, with the advent of social media, obviously we're going to come on to AI in a few moments, but, you know, we have to stop throwing token justice. We have to look at spirit leadership in all aspects of leadership. And of course, from the king of the country coming down. And I think token justice, we need to be getting away from that. And as I said, you know, there are wonderful soul-reaching people out there in the world that have long been ignored in sort of the establishment, that should be given that recognition. I mentioned Ravi Singh from Khalsa Aid, for example, or Jay Shetty, again, from the Hindu community, amazing work that they're doing. Why they're not being given this royal privilege, I don't know, or people like that, I should say.
Amandeep, I'd suggest it's probably, how can I put this? If you don't have people around you that truly reflect all of those, the different faiths, if you like, if they're not part of the decision-making process, often, and it's not just, I'm not just saying in a royal household, in any business, in the media, they go for, this sounds rude when I say the lowest hanging fruit, but the easiest, the most accessible. Oh, he'll do. Or they do. You know what I mean? I don't mean that these people haven't got achievements in their own right.
Trisha, I think you've hit the nail. You've hit the nail on the head. And you said perhaps what others are embarrassed to admit. We're still in an archaic system where that is the network that you choose from. You know, you look to your left and see who's at the table, and you look to your right and you say, well, you'll do. And frankly, it's
you'll do.
Yeah, we need to be getting.
Jonathan's laughing. I think Jonathan's laughing. Hopefully in agreement.
I think they try to go. I think they just try to go with those who they trust, who will not upset the apple cart, as it were. So that that's the reason. But I think you have to be authentic and real. And we live in an age where our young people, you know, they want that which is authentic and real. So let's go with what is authentic and real.
See, now we're getting there. This is why I love the faith panel. Now we're getting there. We've got just a few minutes to talk about AI and chatbots. I mean, this is a really interesting piece. I like reading religion news because it's about all different faiths and what's happening all over the world. And this, as I said before, this Jesuit priest got the chat thing to write a piece. So why can't they write sermons? I mean, why can't they write prayers? Is this something of the future, Amandeep?
I think that it will have a part to play, like some things that come and go. We should embrace technology. I've got no issue with technology. I'm forward-thinking in my own right. I am grateful for technology. It's allowed me to reach millions of people across the world through our platform, Basics of SikhPA. Just a little plug there for Basics of SikhPA. I've got no issues. I've got no issues with technology, but I think everyone would join with me in saying that you can't possibly expect AI to be able to produce a spirit experience. I mean, I was in Trafalgar Square yesterday with thousands as we celebrated Vaisakhi, and we came together with strangers across the square, and we meditated together, and people burst into tears, and they were just in such a vibe. And it's going to be very difficult. I think it's an impossible suggestion to try and think for a second that sermon or spirit-based or God-proclaimed teachings will be able to be born forth through a program. Try as they might, I'm sure someone will, but the spirit, absent the spirit, and I'm sure my colleague will, absent the spirit, you're left with just words.
It's scary. Yes, left with just words. Got to wrap it up really quickly, Jonathan. Your thoughts? You'd agree with Amandeep?
No, I totally agree with him. I think the difference, the simple difference I can make is just like you and I meeting online here is very different if the three of us were in a room. You will smell my perfume.
Yeah.
I can touch you. You can touch me. Totally different experience. And that is the difference between AI and a real person.
Amen. Amen. Loved having, I'm sorry it's so short. I loved having both of you on the show. I'd love to get you back again because we get to discuss stuff that isn't really discussed anywhere else. So thank you so much for your contribution. I really look forward to having both of you on the panel again. Pastor Jonathan Olayedi and Amandeep Singh there. Great discussion. Great discussion. Thank you both.